Ready? Okay. Good evening. This is a special meeting of the Hollister City Council on September 5th, 2023. Meeting is now called to order. It is 5:30 p.m. City Clerk, are there any public comments on closed session?
Mayor Casey, there are no public comments for either of the closed session items.
City Attorney, can you please announce the closed session items?
Yes, Mayor. One, conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. Agency designated representative, City Manager David Maroney, and Administrative Services Director Casey Astorga. Employee organization and represented employees and classifications designated as executive management. Item number two, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, existing litigation, Kane et al. V. City of Hollister, San Benito County Superior Court, case number CU 22000087.
All right, can I have a motion to adjourn to closed session?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Hollister City Council. Meeting is now called to order. It is 6:30 p.m. Councilmember Burns, can you please lead us in the pledge?
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, can you please call roll?
Yes, Councilmember Perez,
Present.
Councilmember Resendez,
Present.
Councilmember Morales,
Present.
Councilmember Burns,
Here.
and Mayor Casey.
Here.
I'd also like to report that the agenda for the City Council of the City of Hollister special and regular meeting of September 5th, 2023 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on August 31st, 2023 at 3:52 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2. Thank you.
City Attorney, is there any reportable action from closed session?
Nothing to report, Mayor and Council.
Okay. In accordance with Government Code Sections 54957.9, 54957.95, 36813, Penal Code Section 403, and Municipal Code Section 2.04.200, I need to address the manner and decorum of our meetings and issue a warning in this regard. Meetings must proceed in an orderly and efficient manner without willful disruption so that the business of the city can be conducted. While the council is more than willing to listen to comments from the public, this must be done at the appropriate time and should be done at the podium with the microphone so that your words can be heard and recorded properly as part of our meeting. In order to prevent disruption, the council has the right to request that any person immediately stop the following conduct: willfully disrupting a meeting, interrupting a person who is addressing the council, preventing the council from attending to the purpose of meeting. Disruption is defined as engaging in behavior during a meeting of the council that actually disrupts, disturbs, impedes, or renders infeasible the orderly conduct of the meeting. If members of the public continue to disrupt a meeting after being warned, those individuals may be asked to leave the meeting. It may also be necessary to call a recess, clear the chambers, or even cancel the meeting. I would like to ask you all for your courtesy and cooperation in this regard, so it won't be necessary to take any of these steps. Thank you. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. Are there any questions from council, brief questions or comments on the consent agenda? Councilmember Burns, do you have any quick?
I do not, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Resendez? Councilmember Perez?
No, thank you.
Vice Mayor? I just have one really quick one. And it has to do with the minutes. It's just a correction. At the end of the minutes, where we're reporting out in my section, it says Mayor Casey reported she initiated action, and it should actually read that Mayor Casey initiated action. That's all. Okay, so let's move on. Are there any public comments on consent agenda items?
Mayor Casey, we do have one public comment. I do just want to note, we did have a proclamation for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, I believe it was, but I don't see the person online to receive it. So, we just had someone raise their hand. So if you want to do that right after consent calendar, we want to do that since nothing
Okay.
else being pulled.
We'll do it then.
We do have one public comment for the consent calendar. It is item number 11, and it's Elias Salinas.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I was going through your consent agenda and I was just had a question with regards to Kimberly Horn. This contract to review development projects. This is regarding the engineering, it falls under engineering. And my question to the council and to the city manager is, what is the difference with Kimberly Horn doing this and the dip between Ford Leaf doing it? I thought it was Ford Leaf that already did this. Is there so much of a backlog that Kimberly Horn is needed, or am I misunderstanding that maybe Ford Leaf is not doing this? And now it's good. And the city doesn't have staff and you need to hire Kimberly Horn to go through and review the development projects, because it's my understanding that that is something that's done by the staff. You are either short-staffed, Kimberly Horn is coming in because you're short-staffed, or I thought that part of the staff of this work is done through Four Leaf. Thank you.
Thank you.
And those are all the public comments we have for the consent agenda items.
Okay, do any members have items they wish to pull from the consent calendar? Councilmember Burns,
I do not, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Resendez,
No. No, thank you.
no. I don't think I do either. So may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay,
And then Mayor Casey, we do have the member of the public for that
for the
proclamation.
proclamation. Okay. Since they're on Zoom, I'm just going to read it out. This is a proclamation honoring Jacob's Heart Children's Cancer Support Services and declaration of September 23rd as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas the character of our community is revealed in how we treat our most vulnerable, and whereas each year 19 in every 100,000 children in our community will be diagnosed with cancer, and whereas cancer remains the leading cause of death by disease among children, more than asthma, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, congenital anomalies, and AIDS combined. And whereas Jacob's Heart has been keeping medically fragile children and families housed, fed, and emotionally supported by steadfastly adhering to the following commitments. 1, parents of children with cancer and other serious illness will be relieved of financial fears and able to focus on their children. 2, no child undergoing intensive treatment in our community will be homeless. 3, families of seriously ill children will not experience food insecurity during and after the pandemic. And 4, no child seriously ill in our community will ever miss a medical appointment because of a lack of transportation. And whereas Jacob's Heart holds the memories and honors legacies of hundreds of children from our local community who have been lost to cancer, ensuring that their memories will never be forgotten. And whereas the oncology department at Lucille Packard Children's Hospital at Stanford has worked closely with Jacob's Heart for the past 25 years as a trusted community partner in providing family-centered care that addresses the emotional, practical, and financial struggles of families of children with cancer in the city of Greenfield. And whereas it is important for all Hollister City residents to recognize the impact of pediatric cancer on families within our community and honor the children in our community whose lives have been cut short by cancer. Now, therefore, I, Mia Casey, Mayor of the City of Hollister, hereby declare September 2023 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Hollister, and do hereby honor Jacob's Heart Children's Cancer Support Services for outstanding support to our community and acknowledge the organization's contributions to Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Thank you. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. If you're joining us via Zoom, please click on the bottom of your screen to raise your hand. And if you are joining us via Zoom using a cell phone, please press *9. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on items that are not on the agenda. City clerk, do we have public comment?
Yes, Mayor Case, we do have several for public comments. Before we do that, we do have Speaker Alicia Diaz and Fonte that I believe is speaking to the proclamation you just read.
Oh, good.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Alicia Diaz-Infante. I'm here representing Jacob's Heart. And on behalf of the entire team, I just want to thank Mayor Casey and the council for proclaiming September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. All year long, Jacob's Heart, we stand with our families, ensuring they're not alone on this journey. But this month is special in that we join a choir of voices around the world, shedding light on the challenges our families face that one would not imagine that they face. So we are so grateful for all this, and it is with the community's continued support that we're able to ensure our families don't feel alone on this journey, and that we're able to lovingly guide them towards hope and healing as we do so. Thank you.
Thank you. For public comment, our first speaker is B. Gonzalez.
Good evening, City Council. How are you doing this evening? I come here today speaking to you on behalf of, or as the Chair of San Benito COG Board of Directors. And I'd like to formally invite the City Council and members of the public to an important transportation town hall and project tour on September 20th and 21st. There are flyers in the lobby area, and I have a copy for each one of the City Council members. So Dave, may I hand them to you? It is a 2-day event, as I said, the 20th and 21st, and in attendance will be the CTC, which is the California Transportation Commission, which is a statewide board responsible for funding transportation projects throughout California. We'll also be welcoming Speaker of the Assembly, Robert Rivas, who will be providing an introduction to the San Benito region. This meeting will be the public's opportunity to advocate for our region's transportational needs, such as Highway 25 and our local roadway pavement needs. I have brought extra copies, and as I said, they're out there in the foyer area. COG encourages all elected officials and each one of you to please try to make the attendance. All members of the public are invited to attend this important 2-day event. And if you'd like to RSVP, please RSVP to the COG office, San Benito Council of Government office at 831-637-7665. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next public speaker is Carl D. Leonardo.
Good evening. I spoke at the last meeting concerning Lad Lane, and I know that at that time we made a vote and everything is now taken care of. But there was one other thing that I spoke about the last time, which I still haven't seen anybody talk about. The subcontractor who did the striping was called out as having been the problem. And I mentioned to you at that last meeting that there was a national automobile organization that questioned that, having looked at both the plans that were presented and the actual striping that they saw. And I understand it's just a subcontractor, but they're the persons who are being scapegoated here for what happened. So I would ask that it be looked into. I'd love to see the subcontractor come back and explain their side of the story, why they striped Lad Lane the way they did. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next public speaker is John Robles.
Good evening, council members. Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear myself. Folks in the room and the 9 people on Zoom. I have 2 items to comment on tonight. The first of which is a concept that is a little bit on the profound side, and the other is a more narrowly focused message. First item, the brand. It's fair to say that most of us understand what that is. When you enter a store, you are met with many brands of products. In the business world, corporations rely on their brand. It's an intangible asset, meaning that it does not necessarily have a dollar value to it, but it can be worth a lot. This concept also applies to people. You see this in sports, the entertainment industry, and even in politics. Let's hold that thought for a moment. I'll come back to that. During the last meeting, we saw a lot of people here. We had mothers, fathers, grandparents, young people. All of them gave impassioned pleas to consider them in your decision-making on the sewer expansion. Many of them were from District 2. They came to voice their disapproval of the project as it stands now. Some of their concerns included the smell, the potential biohazards, the fact that there would be no benefit necessarily to the people of Hollister proper, just to name a few items. It sure looks like you turn your backs on them. Your vote sent a chilling message to them that you don't really care. There might have been some lip service here and there, but the fact of the matter is that people may find it notable that you perceivably turned your backs on 11,576 people directly, nearly 1/3 of the city of Hollister. Little footnote, 80% of those people in District 2 happen to be Latinos. Those are pretty bad optics for the council. ¿Verdad? But it's not just about them, it's about the entire city. I don't want to limit it to one demographic. There is sewage infrastructure within the city limits, as I understand it, that's 100 years old or near 100 years old. So let's circle back to the brand. It's not unreasonable to assume that all of you have aspirations. Maybe some want to run again for office. There's some seats opening up next year. Maybe you'll go to the private sector. I'm out of time, so I'll go ahead and continue that next time. All right. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next public speaker is Carly Robles.
Hi, Carly Robles, Hollister. So I didn't come up here tonight with a prepared speech. I don't do a lot of public speaking. I haven't in my lifetime. But I feel like this is really important, living in this city, seeing what's happening with our government. I feel like the constituents are not being represented right. 4 out of 5 of you do not have your constituents' best interests at heart. And I think we know who the 4 out of 5 are. It's not Roland. He's the one that cares about what is happening to people in his district and all of Hollister. I just like the fact that I can come up here and have my voice heard. And people on Zoom can listen. People in here can listen. I don't want everyone to know that they can have their voice heard and stand up for their city. And I'm going to keep coming up here, even if I'm not good at public speaking. I'm going to come up here every time and I'm going to talk about whatever I can to do what's just for this city. Mayor Mia Casey, you take money from developers, you lie. I have proof that you lied. And one day I will tell you about it. Dolores Morales, you have lied from taking money from developers. That's well known. Rick Perez, I don't even know how you got elected. 79 convictions. How did you slide past that one? I don't know. I hope so.
Please don't respond. Thank you.
And Tim Burns, you know, maybe there was some disruption going on in the audience at the last session, but you did not have a right to talk to me the way you talked to me, and I don't appreciate that. I hope that doesn't happen again. I hope this council takes at heart the way our city is growing. There are too many housing developments that are getting approved, which, yes, I know some of them have been approved by the last administration, but that it doesn't mean that we make the sewage system bigger for more homes down the future. And it doesn't mean that this is what I mean when I say I'm not good at public speaking, but I will get better. I will keep coming up here. Um. I guess that's about it. Roland, thank you for all you do. Thank you for standing up for all of us. Thank you for putting us first. Thank you for putting Hollister first. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next public speaker is Robin Pollard.
Good evening, Robin Pollard, Hollister, Park Hill. So I came tonight to talk about your trees. I don't know if you've noticed, maybe you have, but your pear trees on San Benito Street have either fire blight or boring beetle, and there's diseases and bugs. And if you keep, this is not a problem that can be put off if you want to save those trees. If you walk down San Benito Street, you will see all the little dead branches, and this is the worst it's been. So I hope that we can save our trees, if not for climate change, then for the shade that they give us. Also, some of the trees that have been there for a while on San Benito, mostly, I believe, the crepe myrtles, many of them still have stakes when they were planted 10 or 15 years ago, and they're girdling, which is another way of killing a tree. The suckers at the base of the trees don't help promote those trees. That needs to be constantly cut back if you're not going to have bushes at the bottom. So I think trees are important for all of us, and I hope you will consider taking care of our trees that we have downtown and beyond. And since I have, oh, look at that, I have a minute and a half. Since I'm here, I'm going to talk about Park Hill, because the 2040 master plan's coming up, and I'm still hoping and praying that you guys will convert the city land up there to parkland. Those walls up there that were built by the WPA are coming up 93 years, almost 100 years in 2032. I know I saw an article or a news story on PBS regarding WPA projects that were being recognized and acknowledged. So I don't know, I love those rock walls up there, and I'm willing to protect them. So if you could consider doing that designation change so that perhaps grants for the park could be expanded. Maybe we could get a tool library. I mean, there's so many things we could do up there. The dog parks are one of the things. Also, I know a year and a half ago, there was talk about a remodel for the barbecue area up there. Nothing's happened, but the grass and the ballpark field has moved forward, and it's looking great. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next public speaker is Elias Salinas.
Good evening again. I am requesting that with the next subject I'm about to speak about, that you consider placing it on a future agenda item. For the past few months, people have been expressing their concern regarding sarcastic postings intended to be comical at the expense of arrestees here in San Benito County within the Hollister Police Department. The Hollister Police Department has a social media page, and they have been posting in a comical way of the situations that have been occurring. The Salinas Police Department was silenced for 2 months by the city manager for the posts on the page that included jokes and lividity around the crime and arrest. So I think that it's a serious item that needs to be looked into, whether you do it in closed chambers or whether you do it here. I think it does need to be addressed by the city council. No matter how popular or viral your video or photos get, it does not brand your department and send a message to as intended to it is relayed. It is a failure if the intent is lost. By judging those responsible with a "don't be a dingbat," it's a failure. Mental illness is a real issue. It's a real problem in our county. I am grateful that the Hollister Police Department, along with also the Sheriff's Department, are to be getting trained so that they know how to deal with mental health crisis when they go on a call. However, posting those interactions on social media, in my opinion, it prejudiced the future jury pool here in San Benito County that is very small. I did make a phone call and left a voicemail for the district attorney today, asking him to look into whether these posts is there, if it is a possibility that these posts do prejudice a potential jury pool here. When you post something, I may not know who you're talking about, but eventually the community is so small that you know the individual that got arrested. And when you're going to be going up there and you're going to be a possible juror, the story of what has happened has not been told yet. And you may get selected as a jury member, and then you're going to have to be recused if you've already made up your mind. And we don't know who these people are already making up their mind when these posts, people start calling these individuals out and saying that they're guilty and they're not. And I'm not saying one way or the other. It's just not right to do that. Thank you.
The next public speaker is Celeste Bocanegra.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I was calling in regards to two parks located in my area.
Ms. Bocanegra, we can't hear you anymore.
But I wanted to bring it up to the city council first and then move on to that department. And then we also have the other park off of Central and Bridgeville, who basically both parks need some maintenance. I understand that we have many new homes and new parks being developed, but on the west side, one thing when I was running, I really wanted to focus on our parks and brighten them up. Unfortunately, our council member that represents me hasn't been focusing on that. He's been focusing on other not very well issues. So I also wanted to thank our mayor and our other city council members, Dolores, Tim Burns, and Rick Bettis, on trying to focus on the main issues of our city and putting all their efforts and focus on the real job and becoming the servants for their constituents. And as far as our police department, the post, there's hundreds of constituents or hundreds of individuals that support our law enforcement and have seen nothing wrong with their post. It's unfortunate that we live in a culture that feels they have to be a victim. They feel some sort of need to uncomfortableness. I'm not even sure how to put it, but it's the Hollister Police Department is doing nothing wrong. And they are doing exactly what they need to be doing. They're doing their job and they're letting the community know exactly what happened. And that's it. They're doing exactly what needs to be done. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Those are all the public comments we have for this portion of the agenda.
City manager report.
Just to follow up on the trees that were mentioned, I'll work with the Public Works Director on that. And we actually were having a discussion this morning about getting the suckers trimmed on the bottom of those trees. So we are looking into that and have made note here. So thank you.
Do we have any trainings and conferences? City manager, do you anything to add for that?
Nothing to report.
Chief Reynoso, any trainings or conferences to talk about?
If I could just point out, we had an officer attend a training for CIT for FTOs, crisis intervention training. An officer also attended a drug recognition to become a drug recognition expert. And we also had a sergeant attend checkpoint operations mandatory training to do checkpoints. And also our animal control officer, Harvey, attended the Animal Control Academy as well in August. And then we had various officers attending firearms training and including ABLE training this last month. And bias training as well. Thank you.
Okay, any other training or conferences? Oh. Okay, then we're gonna move on to item F1. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. Go ahead.
I wanted to congratulate Eva Kelly and Amber Cameron, our our interim planning manager and senior planner, on completion of the ICMA Leadership Academy.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Good job. Okay, so resolution number 2023-173, a resolution of the City Council of City of Hollister naming the Vista Park Hill softball field the Anthony Desclafani Junior Giants Field. Staff report.
Good evening, Madam Casey and City Council. Tina Garza, interim Parks and Recreation Director. So for the past several weeks, staff has worked closely with the Giants Community Fund to renovate the softball field up at Vista Park Hill. And now we're asking for or requesting permission to name the field after Anthony Desclafani, who is the donor for us to renovate this field. He is the pitcher for the San Francisco Giants. And so we're just asking for permission, and I'd just like to know if you have any questions.
Do we have any questions? Councilmember Burns, anything?
I do not, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Rosendez. Councilmember Perez, any
Can you
questions?
repeat, are you able to repeat the time or to announce the time that he'll be there or that they will be there?
Yes. We will have the dedication ceremony on Friday, September 22nd from 11 to 1. 11, we'll just have some activities for our youth that are coming out there. We were asked to invite a school to the ceremony, and we looked around, and the closest school in the area where didn't need transportation or anything is Calaveras School. So we reached out to the principal and the teachers, and we are inviting around 50 third graders to the event. So prior to between 11 and 11:30, we'll have activities for them. 11:30 will be our speeches, and then noon time, we will feed our community, and Junior Giants will support the purchasing of the hot dogs and other food that is needed out there for the event. That's on Friday, and we'll send out invitations soon. We just confirmed the time because they were really trying to make efforts to bring in a lot of their community members with the Giants community, and then of course the pitcher Anthony Desclafani.
Thank you.
Any other questions or? Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
Mayor Casey, there's no public comments for this item.
All right, is there any further discussion? No? Yes? Sure, go ahead.
Just want to say congratulations, Tina. We absolutely love this. Well done to you and all your staff. And thank you to the Junior Giants or San Francisco Giants.
San Francisco. Yes. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, so is there a motion then to approve this item?
So moved.
The second? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you for your support.
You're welcome. All right, item 2, resolution number 2023-174, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving a policy on remote meeting participation by legislative bodies. May we have the staff report?
Mayor Casey and Council, Jennifer Clerk sorry, Jennifer Woodward, City Clerk. This policy simply formalizes what is already in the Brown Act for the state and also under AB 361 that is in effect through the end of this year. And then also AB 2449, which is in effect through January 1st, 2026. It outlines the process by which members of the city council and its advisory bodies can participate in public meetings. And it has all of the different steps for the regulations. It also includes an affidavit that any member of that advisory body or city council can use when posting the agenda at their location if they're participating from an offsite location. And I will take any questions.
Do we have any questions?
Yes, thank you. So is there any changes between this policy that we're adopting as to what's the state law requires us to do or says? Are
No,
there any differences at all?
no, this simply has the process by which members of the council and advisory bodies, and so it's brings it to the city more than anything, and it provides that affidavit, which is not required by state law.
Perfect. And when Councilmember Morales was zooming in from an airplane on her way to Cuba, did we have this policy in place and did she sign an affidavit?
This policy is before you tonight. This has not been previously adopted by the city council.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Councilmember Perez, any questions?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Just thank you for the work. It's nice to have a formal policy and process. I appreciate that. Has this also been shared with the different boards and commissions, or will it be?
This policy would be shared with the different members of the advisory bodies for the city once adopted by the council. So
And-
we would provide it both to the staff liaisons who would help implement it, and then also to the members of those advisory bodies.
And I guess for the ad hoc committee for council conduct, I'd like to maybe see this as an element included in the code of conduct moving forward. Just my 2 cents. Thank you, City Clerk. Really appreciate your effort here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other? Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
There are no public comments for this item.
Do we have any further discussion or deliberation? All right, is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
yes.
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. All right, we're going to move on to item G1. Outline of cost measures to repair the Dunn Park courts and possible direction to staff. Can we have the staff report?
Mayor, I think we skipped F3, the report on hearing officer protocols.
Sorry about that. Okay, hold that thought, Tina. All right, let's move back to item F3. Report on hearing officer protocols in surrounding cities and request for direction to handle administrative hearings in Hollister. Can we have the staff reports, Chief? Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Before you is an informational request for direction in regards to the hearing officer process here in Hollister. For several years, over 5 years, we've had Jeff Miller conducting those hearings mostly through Zoom. And it's been working very well. He's available for us even on those occasions where we need to do a hearing within 72 hours. However, his contract has expired, and there's been concerns in regards to having someone, potentially a lawyer. We've looked into maybe having a lawyer do this, and we've looked into the consideration of someone who works or used to work for the police department, a conflict of interest or some that type. Jeff Miller obviously was the chief of police here previously. Our existing code does not have any of these requirements that were discussed. So before you is a report of us reaching out to the several cities in our area to discuss how they handle their hearing in their jurisdictions. And there's some examples here. The city of Salinas has a new program where they contract with the Monterey College of Law, and they have law students conduct the hearings. They haven't had one hearing, and I think it might be because they charge a $400 fee, reimbursable only if they win the hearing. That's the only one that handles it in that way. The city of Los Banos designates a department head. Any department head that's available, they'll conduct a hearing. City of Morgan Hill has a sergeant from Gilroy actually conduct the hearings. And the city of Gilroy has hired a law firm to conduct theirs. And Pacific Grove city staff conducts the hearings. If there's an appeal, then a citizens review board handles the appeal. City of Marina contracts with an attorney to conduct the hearings. City of Capitola, city staff handle the hearing. If there's an appeal, they have a local attorney who has a flat rate of $50 per hearing. Most of the hearings are conducted in writing via mail. An in-person hearing is, if an in-person hearing is required, then they hold them about once a month. The city of Soledad, the city attorney conducts the hearings, and the city of Watsonville Fire Department handles hearings for fireworks, animal control, and code enforcement. City of Gustine, city manager conducts the hearings. City of Marina contracts an outside hearing officer similar to Hollister, the way we do that. And the city of Gonzales, the city manager conducts the hearings, which was my recommendation. I'm just kidding. There's so additionally, we looked into a hearing company. It's actually called Hearings Officers LLP, and they provide this service as well, but it's handled by attorneys, and they have a $300 an hour rate. And if you want it in person, it's an additional $150 on top of the $300 an hour. So staff is requesting direction from the city council. And if we want to change our definition of what a hearing officer will be, we can come back to council with a resolution to do that. So what we need to know is, I listed a few of the stuff that's come up. Do we want the hearing officer to have a law degree? Can the hearing officer should not be part of the law enforcement, or is that okay? Can the hearing officer be a former member of the city of Hollister, employee of the city of Hollister? Any educational requirements? If so, what requirements? Do they need a bachelor's or a master's degree? Would there be any prior law enforcement experience required? Any prior municipal administration experience? Will Zoom or remote hearings be allowed? Does the hearing officer have to live and conduct these hearings only in person and live in the state of California or nearby? Does the hearing officer have to pass a full background? Or any other requirements that the council may suggest. So upon hearing these requirements, I can come back with a resolution to amend our city municipal code, and then go into the process of looking for a new hearing officer. Currently, our sergeants are handling the hearings right now, similar to the way they handled a tow hearing at this point. All of this, which is within the rules in place. I just want to note that this isn't this is an administrative hearing. This isn't a criminal court. When these hearings are conducted, if someone is not happy or feels something was done wrong, they have an appeal process, and that appeal is to the Seminole court here in Hollister. And that's so that's all the report.
Okay, do we have questions from council? Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have a couple of questions, but then I have a lot of thoughts that I'll save for our recap. So Chief, on an average, how many hearings do we have annually? And do we have statistical data that would tell us that for the last 3 to 5 years?
I could get that information for you. I think it goes in spurts and stuff. Sometimes we have three or four hearings in a month, and sometimes we go a whole month without a hearing at all. It also depends on how many citations are going out there.
Okay. And what have we in the past spent on an annual basis for hearings when retired Chief Miller was the hearing officer?
I believe last year it was $4,400 in hearings, and that's at $100 an hour rate.
Okay. And then what amount of money did we charge for hearings?
They have to pay for the fine up front, and I think that's all that they do. We don't charge for the hearing.
Okay, so, but if somebody received a fine for $1,000, they would have to deposit the $1,000 with an understanding that if they prevailed in the hearing, they would receive that back, and if they did not prevail, that would be the end, that would be their out-of-pocket cost.
Correct, but there is a mechanism in place that if they can fill an application for if they don't have the money or if they qualify, they don't have to pay that money up front. They can just have the hearing.
Okay, so in essence, a hardship waiver?
Yes.
Thank you, Chief. And so, City Attorney, is there a reason why we don't or could not charge a fee? I heard what the chief say, and I actually understand it and agree that perhaps $400 for a hearing is a excessive amount that could create, I think your word would be a potential chilling effect. But we do have the right to charge some reasonable amount for this service if we were, as a council, chose to move in that direction.
Yes, you could. You'd have to put it on your fee schedule though, as a charge, and it needs to be reasonably related to the amount of time that the employee or contractor provides.
Thank you, City Attorney. Thank you, Chief. Mayor, that concludes my questions. I'll hold my comments for later. Thank you.
Sure. Councilmember Resendez, question.
Thank you. So first question, since retired Chief Miller has no longer been our hearing officer, how many hearings have we had?
Actually, we haven't had any hearings. They're scheduled to occur. There was some miscommunication in some regards to the sergeants doing them. And they started scheduling them last week.
Okay. Have you consulted with legal on what the best avenue is and what the best options are to proceed with this process?
We've discussed, but I don't think we've discussed in detail.
We've discussed options, and then you have that list about what all different cities do that are comparable. All those are valid suggestions, and all of those apparently work except for the $400.
So aside, I'm looking for your direction, Chief Reynoso. Aside from having the hearings through retired Chief Miller, what would your recommendation be out of all the list of options that you gave us or agencies that we could potentially use?
Honestly, I think you understand that the Salinas option is a little excessive. I think that charging that much money for a hearing is too much, but I think that if you hire an attorney, they're going to be in the $300 range an hour. It's going to be really excessive. If we paid Chief Miller, retired Chief Miller, $4,400 last year, you just triple that, and you probably have an idea of how much that would have been to the city. Quite honestly, if the idea of having someone else from outside sometimes complicates things as far as scheduling and moving things around. I think that the system that we had was working. And I think that if a city doesn't want to go with that we give a try to having our sergeants do them for a while at least, to see if there's any issues with that.
That was going to be my next question. How's that working out? Well, obviously we haven't had any hearings.
We haven't had, and that was a miscommunication. They were supposed to have, we have like 8 hearings that have to be completed. And they're all fireworks related. So mostly, those hearings should be conducted within the next week.
Okay. My concern is, it just seems like it's a lot of options, a lot of different variables or the way that we can proceed. It just seems like it's a bunch. So what I would like is some recommendations from you. That's what I'm looking for. And then, yeah, I'm just wondering if that's a potential way to move forward, is to have the sergeants do it for the time coming, to see how that works out for us. So thank you.
Councilmember Perez, do you have questions?
Actually, I'm just gonna save it for a comment.
Okay. Vice Mayor, do you have any questions?
Yes, my question would be, if we were to go the department head route, do we have the capacity, like within their schedule to do that?
I would say, given the amount of projects that the department heads are working on and the fact that most are relatively new, I would not see that they have the capacity currently to handle that assignment.
Thank you.
Let me see, what questions haven't been asked? So just to reiterate, so when the retired chief was doing this, it was $100 an hour, right? And typically, so would that be about what a hearing would be, an hour, or is it typically longer than that?
Some are longer than that. They
Mhm.
could be an hour. They're scheduled for 40 minutes.
Mhm.
And then there's writing that happens. I mean, that there's some that there's only an hour and a half charge for it, and there's some that are maybe 2 to 3 hours.
Okay. And I'm trying to remember, I know you've said this in the past, but Chief Miller, when he was doing, how long did he do this? And what was his record with the hearings that he did?
He did them for almost over 5 years and conducted the hearings. It's also a matter of responding, and part of the process is to respond in writing to the individual that requested the hearing. Whatever decision that the chief made was clearly explained to them. And in the time that he was doing these, he only had one person appeal his decision, and but then they never showed up in court. So it was never overturned at all.
Okay, I think that's all for questions right now. So why don't we go to public comment then? Do you have any public comment?
Yes, Mayor Casey, we have one public comment for Elias Salinas.
Okay. So having gone through one of these administrative hearings, at the time it was Bill Tiffany that was doing it. In my opinion, it should at least be once removed from the police department so that that doesn't show that there is any kind of prejudice with aligning that the fire department gave you a ticket or the police officer gave you a ticket in my case. And then if it's a sergeant, they're going to go, well, he wouldn't give you you wouldn't have gotten a ticket if you didn't deserve it. So I'm very interested to know, and I hope one of you all will ask, and it hasn't happened yet, but only one appeal, and out of those in the last 5 years, how many of those did Mr. Miller find that they were not guilty, and for the word I'm going to use, because I don't know what else to do, and were reimbursed? And so how much, if it costs $4,400 a year, I think the chief said, and we go back 5 years, there are plenty that I can think off the top of my head of retired local law enforcement and or police officers from Santa Clara County that have worked in Santa Clara County or they work in Monterey County, that you might be able to reach out if they were to want to replace Mr. Miller instead of having to do it in-house, and you can still do it at a very low monetary hourly rate. Then the Zoom, we discovered since COVID that we can do a lot of things via Zoom. But I'm still old fashioned, and I believe that when you walk in and you see someone in there eye to eye and you see their body language and you actually let the people listen, you hear them, you see their body language on both sides of it, that also helps you determine to make a decision on that. I like the idea that the work has been done, and I don't remember what Bill Tiffany was charging the city at the time, but I don't think it was a lot of money when he was doing it. And I don't know why he stopped doing it or what happened. And then Mr. Miller took over. But again, I think that if you can reach out to retired law enforcement and those that have the education and that were high ranking, would also be a better benefit for this job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Those are all the public comments we have for this item.
Okay, so let's have a little discussion. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. So chiefs or city manager, do we know how much money we generate in income on an annual basis from administrative citations? Okay. Again, just maybe for follow-up. I don't really have any heartburn about us paying money for this process. I will say that I actually did recommend a firm that the chief was diligent and followed up on. And the reason I recommended that firm was when I worked for the county of Monterey, we actually used that firm but at that time they were known as the McGeorge School of Law, and we found that there was tremendous value. Is that? Oh.
Time's up.
Oh,
Just
okay,
kidding.
okay. My 2 minutes is up. So you're gonna have to do better. And so ultimately, I think there's value. Now, I will say, my understanding is county jurisdictions are required to have an attorney in good standing, having been an attorney for 5 or more years. I recognize it's not a city standard, but I also think that maybe it would behoove us to maybe raise our game to that level. The firm I also recommended, as I understand it, is also the current firm for San Benito County administrative hearings as well. And so I see value in the education, in the experience. I see value in the fact that they're not associated directly with the city in any way, shape, or form. And so for me, I think there's a real benefit to that. I also think we could charge some amount. I'm familiar with the jurisdiction that charges $90 for a hearing. And if you prevail, then you get your $90 back. But I will tell you, that's not nearly the cost of a hearing in that jurisdiction. And so there is some cost associated with it, but I really don't see the benefit or the value in having to pay the fine and then have the hearing. It seems kind of backwards to me. It feels like the cart's before the horse in that process. And so for me, I would prefer that, number one, we go in and we write an ordinance that clearly defines this so that this stops being a potential reoccurring conversation as councils change and priorities shift and opinions become different. I think that would be very helpful to have it codified. As I understand it right now, it is codified, but it's in essence, the city manager has the authority to delegate somebody to do this. I don't think it's wise to have it within the PD or any of the departments, period. For me, I would prefer that we hire an outside attorney regardless of what that fee is, recognizing that that's simply the cost of doing business and only pass along a percentage of that cost to the person requesting the hearing. I think that's the most equitable way. Thank you, Mayor. Those are my thoughts and comments. Thank you, Chief, for your work in this area.
Sure. Councilmember Resendez.
Thank you. Again, I just feel like the report is a little too broad. It's a little too general for me. I feel like we need to narrow the scope a little bit and get some clarity on the process, what the process looks like. So I'm going to piggyback on my colleague here to the left and support his decision to go with the firm and then to bring that back so that we can adopt a policy. Thank you.
Councilmember Press.
So I don't think that we should have city staff taking care of this type of stuff. I think outside third party is great. I actually wanted to, in the beginning, when Mr. Burns brought this up about the attorney and stuff, and you know what, I was leaning that way. And then I had the experience of witnessing the whole process over an RV. Not mine. Not mine. Anyways, the $150 for something that's moving already and it's not broken, it's working. You know, we're going from, who was it? I think it was Elliot brought up the COVID thing about the, you know what? I like, especially when I'm going to get sentenced, and I've done it a lot. So I'd like to have the person in front of me, but you know, the way the world is going now, it's like there's TV screens all over the place. I don't understand. I don't see the value. I mean, I see the value in protecting the city more. But I think the process was professional. It was organized. It was no chaos. And I don't see why we need to change it right now. I mean, we got a lot of things going on, and something that's working right now, I just don't see the value in changing this right now because this is working, seeing the process in work, and I think we can focus on some other things. I know that we put tremendous tasks on staff all the time. So it's like, not that we shouldn't be asking for this, but I just don't see the need for it right now. So I can't support this. But I do support the Oh, you were talking about the paying the bail amount. You should be able to pay a bail amount before you have to pay the fine if you are found guilty. I know about that. And the there was another thing. Yeah, I just can't see taking away staff from their assigned jobs for this, so I can't support this.
Councilmember Perez, I just want to ask you a question. So you're saying you observed a hearing. This was when retired Chief Miller was still here, or are you
Yes,
talking about
yes,
after the fact?
yes. That was-
So
I
that's
think it
no,
was, I don't know what month it was, but it was.
so that contract is expired and is not an option at this
Right.
point. So what is your druthers as far
I
as?
say that we should just stay with what we have with Miller. What we had with Miller.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
just a point of clarification. That's already, that ship's already sailed, as I understand it. So that's not, I understand what Councilmember Perez has said, but it's no longer an option based on the fact that the council already took a vote
Right.
and tied 2-2. And so it can't move forward if I understand things correctly, City Attorney. Well, thank you, City Attorney. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Vice Mayor, any thoughts?
Yes, thank you for the report and thank you for the comparison. The city of San Jose does hearing officers and they actually post it's like a job specification, but it's community members and they do it for like when there's issues with rent or conflicts. But it's actually a posting and you don't have to be an attorney, and it's done where you have a pool of applicants. And so the applicants are pre-screened, they're approved and they're put in. And they rotate. So you don't know who you're gonna get, but they're removed from the city, they're removed from the situation, and they're neutral third. The appeal process goes back to a community of like a hearing board. So that's another option. I would like to see, it sounds like staff doesn't have the capacity to do it internally. But I don't necessarily feel like it needs to be an attorney to do it. I'm fine with having, as long as they're neutral, unbiased, and removed from the city so that they can provide a clear review of the circumstances, and there's due process. That's what I'm looking for, and that it's cost effective.
I would agree with the Vice Mayor. I don't want to put this on city staff or even any of your staff, Chief. I think it does need to be outside. But I don't agree with the idea of a lawyer. No offense to our city attorney, but they're very expensive. And I think that we've shown that an outside hearing officer can do a good job. So my druthers would be to seek either another hearing officer or a pool such as the Vice Mayor mentioned, something in those options, someone removed from the city that would be fair and impartial. Because my point is that if you're not happy with the hearing officer, you still have the option of going to the courts for an appeal with an attorney. So your options are not, you're not done at the hearing. So I don't see the need for a lawyer at all. Anyways, those are my thoughts. And I know it says to talk about emotion, but I think we just are giving you direction right now. Is that right?
Direction only.
Okay. So.
I hear different things from different council members. Just to clarify, Chief Miller, when he was doing them, did fine in favor of the citizen. We never counted them. We never went back and counted them. But there were several times that he did not fine because you mentioned him as the most honest person that you've ever met. If it wasn't there, he found in favor of them. In regards to moving forward, I could reach out to other agencies. Morgan Hill, Gilroy does theirs. I could ask Gilroy, see if they're willing to do ours as well. I don't know if that's an option. That's another department. It would be a sergeant, police sergeant doing them, unless the council doesn't like that idea.
Thank you, Mayor. So Chief, I don't know that that's a problem as far as I'm concerned. I will say that for part of my professional career, I worked for the city of Visalia, which is in Tulare County. And we had a reciprocal agreement before county hearing officers had to be attorneys. And so I actually served as a hearing officer for probably 4 or 5 years. I'm not lobbying for the job. I would be eligible for it. But one of my concerns about it not being somebody that has specific knowledge is often the codes, when they're written, are written in what I would affectionately refer to as legalese and planarese. And so if you have a lay person through no fault of their own, if you read the code, you may have to read it 10 times to even get a remote understanding of it. The other challenge is that it's not uncommon for somebody that receives an administrative citation to be actually represented by an attorney who will then show up at the hearing. And so from my standpoint, I think you would want somebody that's a subject matter expert in code. And so whether that be a code manager or I don't know what you want to call this person. I understand currently if I understand it correctly, our police department who oversees code enforcement has a sergeant assigned to that position. And so if it was a like person that had that background and that experience to be able to render not only honest and fair decisions, but intelligent decisions based on the code, because the reality is the codes they're written to be black and white, but the reality is they're often very gray. And so they're very interpretive. And because of that, you need somebody that's got that expertise, in my opinion, which is again why I try to influence the council without success, that it should be an attorney. But in my mind, you just need somebody that comes with that background. I wouldn't necessarily want you to have a traffic sergeant from San Jose come rolling in to be a hearing officer unless it was traffic related, because yes, they're subject matter experts in that field. But I'm sure if we brought your code supervisor up, he would tell you there's a heavy learning curve for these things. And I would say that in this city, we also do hearings for fire related issues, and we also do them, as I understand, for animal control related issues. And so we need somebody with that well-rounded background and experience. And so I don't know where you find this person, but for me, again, I think that there could be an inference that, well, the right hand washes the other, and I don't believe that at all, but I've heard that before. And so I don't know where we go as a council on this in direction, but those are some of my thoughts and my concerns about somebody that's got that experience. Maybe a retired attorney, somebody like that isn't looking for a lot of money. And so those are my thoughts, Chief. Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor, you have more?
Yes. I think you brought up an excellent point, Councilmember Burns, is that, I'm not sure, are you an attorney? I forgot. So your background and experience allows you to understand the code, and you're considered a subject matter expert. And you don't have to be an attorney in order to do that. You just have to have the experience and knowledge to be able to understand and work in the field. And that's what I'm referring to, is we don't necessarily have to have an attorney. We can have somebody like with your background, with the knowledge of expertise of understanding. And that is through, years of experience or working in code enforcement or law enforcement or whatever, the background that is necessary. All I'm saying is we don't necessarily have to have an attorney in order to fill that code. That's not the end all. And you're a prime example of that.
So again, I hear the chief's concern, though. We've apparently got 8 hearings that are in the queue right now. And so he needs a temporary solution to a permanent process. And so
Does he, or didn't you plan to use staff for these 8 hearings?
That's correct. Yeah.
okay.
The plan is
Okay.
to use the
So we've got
sergeants
an
until
immediate plan, but we need
Okay.
a long.
it's our plan B
Okay.
right now.
Just
And
wanted to
we can
verify.
continue doing that until we decide on a formal process. And one of the things that you're bringing up, and I think Vice Mayor, is your point, is in between a lawyer and a layman person, it's worked out very well, because the police officers, retired police officers or police officers, are used to reading those penal codes that can be very, very confusing as well. And my concern is also to have the same person doing the hearing, so they become more familiar with our ordinances, as opposed to a service where a hearing officer will show up that may not be familiar with our specific code. That would be ideal moving forward.
Yes, Councilmember Resendez.
Thank you. I feel like we're headed in the right direction. Again, it shouldn't be just an everyday person with no experience or any background. or a pool of people. That should not even be an option, I think. Somebody who is removed from the PD is what we're hearing. Potentially somebody from Gilroy, potentially somebody who has these qualifications. So it sounds like we're narrowing our focus a little bit, and I'm just hoping that we can come back with what we're hearing the majority of the council say with two things, policy and options to move forward, hopefully.
Any other comments or? I just, listening to all of the discussion, I would tend to agree that having someone experienced is probably more desirable. I mean, to be quite honest, I felt like we had something that was working and it wasn't broken, and now we're trying to fix it. And so my druthers would be to find another person like the retired chief to do the job. Hopefully local, which I think was one of the concerns, is having someone local that could be in the hearing. So, I mean, that would be my suggestion or direction.
So what I'm hearing from everyone is to have someone removed from the PD. But with adequate experience,
Yeah.
maybe not necessarily attorney, although that would be the most ideal. But and then put something out there for maybe applicants to apply and go through a hiring process. Is that?
Doesn't necessarily, oh, go ahead.
So
Thank you, Mayor. For the chief and the city manager, chief, I think you're spot on, but I think there's a bigger conversation that I just don't want to see get lost in the conversation, which is I'd really like to see the ordinance that currently allows the city manager to anoint or appoint somebody. That's fine as it is. I mean, that's still a definitive process, but I'd like for it to be more expansive to really talk about what we're looking for, so that a year from now, 5 years from now, 15 years from now, there's a clearly defined process that can be followed with a policy and a procedure if that's even necessary to do that. And then the second piece of that is I really don't think it makes it to me, it feels counterintuitive to make somebody pay the fine in advance and then have the hearing. And because if they can't, and I've heard the chief say that there is a hardship waiver, but again, I don't know what the terms and conditions of that looks like. I know that those are fairly complicated from other places I've worked, and I've reviewed those personally and professionally. And so, I have no problem with charging a set fee as long as it's reasonable for the service, with an understanding that if somebody prevails in that process, that they're then refunded that the fee. And so, and we're already doing that to some degree. It's just administrative citations. I've seen them well over $1 million. And so, $1,000 to me is a lot of money, but $1 million is beyond my wildest dreams. And so, the way the codes are written, those fines can toll significantly on a daily basis. And in a month, you could easily conceivably owe $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 that you're taking to hearing. And so we need to fix that part of the process too. And I apologize for being long-winded.
no,
but
that's
wanted to
okay.
just get
I
it
understand
there.
your point.
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Perez, I think you were next. Did you lose your train of thought? Okay, Councilmember Mercedes.
Thank you. I'm gonna disagree with your point about not paying the fine first. I think that if we were not to require people to pay the fine first, we're gonna see a whole lot of administrative hearings. Because people are gonna potentially abuse that system and think that they can get out of not paying their fine, and that's gonna put us in a bigger problem. So I think if people do think that they have a merit, or they have standing, or some type of legal case that they can win, that they should have buy-in, they should pay their fine. I could just see that getting away from us. So I would disagree with wanting to change that. And Chief Reynoso, do you want to weigh in on that as well?
Well, I agree with you, Councilmember Resendez. That's if they have nothing to lose, let's just fight it. And then the city incurs the cost to find a simple thing. Remember, hearings officers, their role is to decide if all the elements were there, if this person did violate the law or not, the ordinance, the local ordinance. And it's sometimes very simple. And we've seen people recently request hearings on a $38 RV fine. And the cost to the city was a lot more than that fine was. And the only reason they knew they violated the rules, they just wanted to see what would happen. Similar to sometimes, you know, when an officer doesn't show up for traffic court and the judge rules in favor of the person. Lots of times the people show up and request the court hearing just on the hopes that the officer won't show up. And as soon as they see the officer there, they just say, I plead guilty to it. You know, but so that's why it's very important for our officers to show up at the hearings and not to miss any of them, so that the word doesn't get out that they often don't go there. So let's go, you know, our chances in court. And I could totally see that happening. And I think that's why it was implemented the way it is. So if you think you did not violate and you were wrongfully cited for this, then request that hearing, pay the fine, it'll get reimbursed to you once you win. But if you don't have, you know, you violate the ordinance and you have to pay the fine anyway, there'll be less people that would just request the hearing.
City Manager, did you have some thoughts or?
No, I just
questions?
want to make sure when the discussion is complete that we reaffirm the direction,
Yeah,
so we can
please.
come back with a thorough policy at a future meeting. We did mention, just to address one of Councilmember Burns' comments, we do plan on whatever the direction of the council is, codifying that and having that come back. That was we concluded our staff report with that. We agree that we need to tighten that up. We're hearing, you know, I'll just, if there's more discussion, I'm glad to listen and then recap at the end. And if not, I'm ready to recap now. So.
Do we have more? Councilmember Chris?
So back to the paying the fine ahead of time. So what I hear you saying is people will just say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna challenge this anyways. But then for someone that's already guilty, I mean, they could do the same thing. So I understand what you're saying, but it works both ways too. I don't think it should be a full amount of the fine. I think it should be a smaller administration fee, but I don't think it should be very much. Yeah.
Any further comments or? No? All right, City Manager, you want to make that all make sense?
I shall do my best. So we'll start with whatever the direction ultimately is. We'll come back with an ordinance codifying that. I think I've heard the separation. I think that was kind of key all the way across that I've heard. Yes, please.
Would that be separation from the police department? Would it also be separation from the city of Hollister? Like somebody
I
else
think
who
in
used to work for the
general,
city?
Yeah, it's all city staff and police. I thought that's what I heard. Yeah.
Someone with the expertise to review these type of matters. I did hear the chief mention and put it out there, so I just want to see if this is an idea that we should explore, talking to other cities sergeants to see if that's something that they would be willing to help us with. As chief's report mentioned, the city of Morgan Hill uses a sergeant from Gilroy PD that may get the expertise we need with a separation. In order to do that, we would reach out and have discussions. So in an effort to be mindful of staff time, is that something that we would have direction to explore? Okay. And then paying the fine, either you pay the fine and then request the hearing, or you request the hearing before you pay the fine. So that I heard mixed, but I didn't see a consensus. So maybe I can just ask it that way. Should we continue the practice of you pay the fine and then you request the hearing?
No.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes also to continue.
I'm a no.
I actually like what Councilmember Perez suggested. First off, if we could figure out what does it cost on an average, and I've heard the chief, and I know that these things, I've been in administrative hearings that run 2 days. Having said that, that's the exception to the rule, but I've also heard the chief say they allocate 40 minutes for it, but it could go an hour and a half. And there must be somewhere some data that will tell us what the average is. And so if we can identify what our true costs are, maybe that's what we charge on an average. And so maybe I'm picking an arbitrary number for clarification and conversation, but maybe it's $250. It's still less, it's 75% less than 1,000. And it's, and then for the person that's got a $38 ticket, they're gonna lose their mind, because I would. And so I don't know how we resolve this, but I'm looking for ideas. And again, let's talk to Morgan Hill. Let's talk to Gilroy. Let's talk to San Benito County. Let's talk to Monterey County. Let's talk to local jurisdictions, because this is not new work. Somebody's already done the majority of the heavy lifting here, and we've just kind of changed direction. And so I agree with council members Perez and Morales, though, that I don't want it to be so excessive. And the one thing, I don't want to put our city attorney on the spot here, but can you talk for a minute, city attorney, about the idea of a chilling effect and what that could create if somebody was not able to qualify for a hardship waiver and allege that they couldn't pay the fine? And we didn't even get into what that even looks like, the hardship waiver process, which is a separate leg on this process potentially as well.
Well, that under the law, the hardship process is designed to, I don't want to say remedy the potential chilling effects, but that's the purpose of it. And so we'd want to look at what the requirements are for the hardship waiver to make sure that that was a fair process as well. I think absent that, you could have a chilling effect if someone couldn't pay their entire amount of their fine, but wanted a hearing because they felt that they were in the right. And I think that those questions could ultimately be answered at the court level for when people appeal to the courts.
Thank you. So I don't know if I just made it that much more confusing, but yeah, I believe in Council Member Perez and Morales's direction in this. So thank you.
Okay, the other piece I heard, and then I'll pass it over, Chief, was a fee for the hearing itself. I don't believe that has reached consensus. So if I could get direction on that, do we want to also include the fee? If the hearing officer finds in the favor of the city, then the fee would apply. If they find in the case of the resident or the recipient of the fine, then there would not be that fee. Yes, please, Chief.
Yes, exactly what I was going to suggest. If you're not going to have them pay the fine ahead of time, at least have a fee, like we could look into the last 3 years of the costs and average out the number of hearings and try to come up with a reasonable amount and run it through our city attorney, see if this is something that we can do, and have that fee to try to offset the future costs that the city's going to have for a hearing. And if the person feels like they have a valid reason not to be, that it's worth it, they would pay that fine. Pay that fee, have their hearing. If they are found that they weren't in violation, they don't pay the fine, and they get the reimbursement back of the hearing. But if in turn they're found that they obviously did violate the ordinance, they have already paid the fee and now they have to pay the fine as well.
Vice Mayor. So Superior Court has like a table for all the different hearings and the costs. So they've done a lot of analysis. You might want to reach out to Superior Court. They have it. And there's all the policies and procedures associated with the fees. What happens if somebody's ill and they can't make it, or have a car accident, can't make it, or whatever. There's everything's already laid out. They've been doing it for years. It's a really good process.
Yeah.
Yes, Councilmember Perez.
Thank you. Just another avenue on this too. It'd be nice for us to know citywide how much money is generated annually from fines, because it's not only the PD. Yes, you've got the animal control services, you've got code enforcement, but you also got our fire investigators. And I don't know if they're issuing citations, but I certainly know during the fireworks era, there were some citations that the chief's now talking about. And I don't know that it was the PD doing it for fire, fire doing it for themselves. But it would really be ideal to know how much is collected. And then is that pushed back into the general fund, or where does that go? Does that go into an enterprise fund? Where's that money going? I doubt that it's significant, but it can absolutely be used to offset some of the costs. And at the end of the day, the ideal goal would be to be budget neutral. But I don't know that we have to be in areas like this. Sometimes justice comes with a price. And so in my mind, I think for the council to make a really truly informed decision, we kind of have to have all of the facts on this thing on all different avenues. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to add that if we are, it sounds like we're leaning towards not having the fine paid up front. I would absolutely want a fee because otherwise everyone will challenge just to not have to pay anything at all. And so having a little fine, even if it's small, whatever it ends up being, it at least people are invested in doing the,
Okay, well,
hearing.
so we have consensus there, right? And what we'll do, we'll bring back the fee, the annual fine generation. And then based on what I'm hearing here, we'll put together an option to consider. What I'm going to ask the chief as well is, it seems we have quite a few steps to undertake with the policy. So I'm going to ask the chief to do an analysis on the staff costs associated with, walking through this process that has multiple steps and layers. I want to have a better understanding when we present that to you of what the cost is associated with it. I believe that's everything I had for decision points. Chief, is there anything else that you need direction on?
I think you cleared it up. We can come back with suggestions. I'll reach out to Gilroy and see if that's even an option or not.
Okay, I know there's been a request for a break, but I wanted to take the council's temperature because I know we've got folks that have been waiting to speak on the Dunn Park courts, which is the next item. Are you willing to wait a little bit to go through that and let people speak, and then we can take a break after that? Okay, why don't we do that then? Let's move on to item G1, an outline of cost measures to repair the Dunn Park courts and possible direction to staff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Casey, and City Council. Tina Garza, Interim Parks and Recreation Director. This is an informational report on the tennis and pickleball courts at Dunn Park. The courts are in poor condition and require some repairs. The courts underwent a restoration in 2016 when cracks were repaired. Staff recommendation to the City Council is to accept the report and then provide staff direction. Dunn Park Tennis Court and pickleball courts are in disrepair. Large deep cracks, spider web across the surface, making the courts difficult to use for the intended purposes. Staff researched the expense of repairing the courts and presented two options. The first was a comprehensive renovation, and the second was for resurfacing and repairing the courts. Staff provided an overview of repair alternatives, pricing, and a summary of each option's primary advantages. Option one is a comprehensive renovation, and this is an extensive project that addresses current issues and improves the overall quality and longevity of the courts. A comprehensive renovation can significantly enhance the playing conditions of the courts. It includes resurfacing the court, repairing cracks, and fixing any irregularities in the surface, then placing a modular surface on the existing court. This creates a smoother and safer playing surface, reducing the risk of injuries and providing a better experience for players. Well-maintained and visually appealing courts can add value to the property or facility where they are located. While comprehensive renovations may have upfront costs, they can be more cost-effective in the long run. The scope of work includes a removal and preparation to install a new modular court, striping for 2 tennis courts. And after speaking with some of our Dunn Park tennis and pickleball community, they requested that we change the 3 pickleball courts to 4 pickleball courts. So we would add additional court if approved. The cost for this option includes repairs, labor, and the modular surfacing, and it's estimated at $274,950. Option 2 is just a basic repair. While less extensive than a comprehensive renovation, this option is cost-effective solution addressing immediate safety and usability concerns. Basic repairs offer a quick turnaround, minimizing downtime and allowing the players to return the courts sooner than later. A repaired court provides a smoother, more uniform playing surface, improving the experience, and choosing a cost-effective repair over a full replacement can result in significant savings. The scope of work includes tennis and pickleball courts resurfacing, materials approved by the United States Tennis Association, and then the restriping of the courts to include the 2 tennis courts and 4 pickleball courts if approved. The cost of resurfacing the courts, including labor, materials, and equipment, is estimated to be $35,880. Staff participating in community outreach by visiting the courts and engaging our community promotes transparency and decision-making processes, which aids in developing trust and support the project. The surface quality of the modular flooring may not provide the same playing attributes as traditional hard courts. Players who played on modular flooring notice ball bounce of movement variances that can affect their playing. Most tennis and pickleball players mention the surface at the Ridgemark tennis and pickleball courts. And if option 2 is chosen, that material used to resurface the courts would be the same surface. This concludes, and then the impact, I discussed the impact, and this concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Okay, Councilmember Burns, any questions?
Just a couple. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your report. I appreciate it. So on the more comprehensive project, the $275,000 repair, how long would that take to do? And does that 275 include the 4th pickleball court, or is that an additional cost?
I'd have to speak to the company, but we'd have to our first step would be going out for an RFP to, we have to go through the bid process. And then secondly, I'd ask for an additional quart. And the fee would probably go up to include the striping of it.
Okay, so now I've been on council 3 years and this park is not in my district. However, I view it as a signature park for the city of Hollister. Seems like a legacy park in my mind, just based on where it's at. And ultimately, it feels like this has been an ongoing conversation since I've been on council. And I heard you say 2016 was the last time. What kind of a maintenance plan can we, if this council moves forward with the more expensive plan, what can we do to ensure that this isn't a conversation in 4 or 5 years from now, so that we get maximum use out of it? And I'm the guy that I didn't believe in changing my oil regularly, and I got this thing called sludge, and that wasn't really good for me, but it was a good life lesson that I've never made that mistake again. And I don't want court sludge. I want this thing to be, I want it to be stellar. I want it to be signature. I want us as residents of the Hollister community to be proud of, to go, look at this. This is amazing. And so what can we do as part of the process to ensure that this thing is regularly maintained so that we're not having a conversation moving forward on this?
With the modular option, I spoke to the company, and if there is anything wrong with it, there are tile pieces that can be removed and replaced. So that's one option for us. As far as preventative maintenance, we would work with a company who installs either modular flooring or does the resurfacing to review, to look at the courts annually, and then budget the 4th year. I met with City Manager Maroney, and we discussed some of those options that you'd like to know. So we'd go into and request resurfacing every 4 years to what am I trying to say? To keep the courts looking good. Thank you.
Yeah, what we would do, council member, as well as depending on what option, if it were the new just overhaul, then we would work with the vendor based on the years of service that the court would provide. and work with them for routine maintenance, either via contract with them, or if the ability for, if it's within the ability of our staff, then we would put it on a schedule. As for if we went the resurfacing route, the option 2, then we would look at that as probably every 4 years. Usually that surface lasts 5. However, based on the proximity to the fault zones, probably just want to get it budgeted and on the books every 4 years. What our ultimate goal is to get it on a schedule so we don't have an issue out there and have to be responding to the users of the court. We know where it's at. We know it's going to have problems. It is what it is. So we should be working that into our budget process. So depending on which route we decide to go, we would work it in accordingly.
Thank you. And my final question is, where will this money come from regardless of it's 35,000 or 275,000?
That would come from park impact fees.
Thank you. That's what I needed. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Sendos, any questions?
Thank you. Yeah, so first off, thank you for your presentation. I'm always impressed by your department's work. I really like the fact that you took the time to go out there and to speak to the people that use the courts. When you did that, did you present them the 2 options? And if you did you get any feedback as to which option they would prefer?
There was a discussion. They actually presented me with the option of the modular court. So I looked into it and I asked the companies when I was looking for bids to include that information. There was, when we were researching it, we did see that the 2 different options. However, I think our pickleball and tennis ball community prefers the resurfaced option where we use the asphalt.
Great, which is more cost effective for us.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so at the time that you spoke to them, they preferred to go with the more cost effective option. Is that correct?
That was my understanding, yes.
Perfect. Are there any grants available for us to go after later on down the line? Let's say we want to do this one or another modular one that we could potentially use that money towards and not charge the taxpaying citizens of Hollister.
I can look into potential grants, yes.
Do we have any upcoming parks? I know we have upcoming parks planned. Are there pickleballs or tennis courts planned out in those parks? I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Yes, at the Fire Station 2 park, we do have 4 courts that will be installed
Wonderful.
there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Press.
So did I understand you right that they preferred the modular instead of the resurfaced?
No, it's my understanding that they prefer the resurfaced one.
Correct. Yeah, no, because I was going to say, it's like, yeah, that's odd to me. All right, so it's actually the more expensive one.
The more cost effective, so the less expensive, the 36,000. The second option.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions? No. Vice Mayor, do you have any questions?
Yes, for the park dedication fund, what is our balance and what percentage or what impact we'll have if we do this? And I understand moving forward, it will be coming as a line item for our budget.
Roughly about $7 million.
So we have plenty of money. Okay, that was my only question.
Let's see. You mentioned about a 4th court. I'm just curious, where would that go? I mean, it seems like the park is laid out in such a way, where would you actually put a 4th court there if you were to do that?
The current existing pickleball courts have 3, and what we would do is put 2 courts facing north and south, and then the other half, I guess we would call it, of the tennis court, would it be 2 other courts facing north and south? So
So you just reconfigure, you're not adding on anywhere, and it's not taking away from the tennis ball courts, it's just reconfigure. Okay. Gotcha.
Yes, and the way it's set up, it's perfect, and to add that other court.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, Mayor Casey, we have a public comment from Paul Namkung.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I've been playing pickleball here at Dunn Park for over 10 years when it was just asphalt, when we had to draw chalk lines or put down masking tape for lines. That's how long we've been playing. I'm the oldest one playing that I know of in San Benito County. And I enjoy it, keeps me from walking because it gives me enough exercise. But the two things I've seen over the years is the sport has really grown. We've had people from Europe, South America, Asia, Alaska, Canada, everywhere not coming to Hollister just to play, but because there is pickleball here, they at least brought their rackets with them to play with us. So the things we're concerned about are, number one, the growth of the game is stupendous. And so we're concerned about capacity, and we're also concerned about safety. Mother Nature's not kind to us there because there must be a fault running right through that park. And so the cracks are very, very serious, and it's almost impossible to repair. When you first resurfaced back in 2016, we tried to repair some of those cracks, and the next earthquake comes and it cracks and falls apart. But you were kind enough to at least convert one tennis court into 3. And one tennis court can actually be made into 4 courts, as Ridgemark just did. They took one of their tennis courts and made 4 pickleball courts out of it, and it's perfect. And most places do that. So those are the concerns. We want to make it safe because we've had some people trip on those cracks, and it's not fun. Thankfully, we had at least one nurse who plays pickleball to look after these people. But so I'm speaking really in favor of choosing either the first or second option. The first option is a very, very long-term commitment using a concrete base, which hopefully will not crack during an earthquake. But the asphalt base you have now probably will again. But it still needs repair and resurfacing every time that happens. And it certainly needs it now. So I invite all of you to come out. There in our group, there are several groups of pickleball players here at Dunn Park. Our group has about 40 members. And there are other groups that play at different times. So it's a very popular game. And I invite all of you to come out. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday at 8 a.m. if you can make it. You'll enjoy it. It's a easy game to learn, hard to master. Thank you.
And those are all the public comments we have for this item.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Councilmember Burns?
Again, thank you for bringing this to us. I was wondering, maybe we could close down Lad Lane and turn it into a big pickleball court. You know, we've already spent a lot of money there apparently.
Thank you.
And-
Thank you,
and I'm
Councilmember.
Sorry, I'm being facetious, but I'm going to support whatever the Parks and Rec recommendation is based on their input from the community, because I think we've learned that's probably a good practice moving forward. And Tina, I'm actually hearing a pickleball tournament statewide opportunity here.
Yes.
And so I think that this could turn out to be something even better, but thank you again for your work, and whatever your recommendation is, I'm supportive of. Thank you.
Councilmember Resendez.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna go with what the community is asking for and what your recommendation is. So I hear for pickleball, the more cost-effective, more quicker option to get the community out there playing. We need to come up with a plan for maintenance. If we come up with a plan for maintenance and adopt that at the council level, that would be helpful. And let's do this as quickly and as we can, so we can get this community out there to continue playing in a safe manner. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Perez.
I just hope we're not just going for the quick solution because it's cheaper. You know, because in Dunn Park, the fault line does go right there. I get it. My house is right there. Um, I guess my comment would be more of a question. It's like, do they really want just the quick fix, or do we want to look for the longevity? So comments.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
I'll just echo everyone's comments.
Well, thank you, Tina, for bringing this to us and appreciate it. And I think, the community seems to want option 2, and I would support that. For me, even if it has to be redone every 4 to 5 years, you can do it 6 times over for the cost of that option 1. So I think we're covered for a long time. Anyways, I would support that and what the community wants. So thank you. Yes.
If I may, one thing to add is that, we are working, it'll take a while, but we're working with the high school in regards to joint use for their new courts as well. So that'll ultimately turn into, hopefully, we still got to work that out. Additional options as well for the community.
Thank you. Right, so you're just looking for direction, or are we supposed to
One or
be
two.
making just direction? So option 2, it sounds like.
Yeah, with the direction to proceed with option 2,
Mhm.
that's well within the cost under CUPCA, so we can do 3 quotes. Tina's already worked with the vendor, so we can turn around and bring something very soon to council to get that vote and get the project started.
Do you have to bring it back if you have Cupca, you said? Is that what it's called?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'd have to look at it, but if we don't need to bring it back, we won't.
Okay, thanks.
We
Are
still
we
have
gonna
the
have to, are we gonna have to change the wording to 4 courts instead of 3? Okay.
Okay. So I think we're gonna take just a short break, maybe a 5-minute break. So stretch. You ready? All right, let's continue on, see if we can get through these last couple items. We're going to do a report regarding the July 1st, 2023 fireworks show and family fun night event and possible direction to staff. Tina, you're back.
Yes, good evening. This is an informational report on the 2023 fireworks show and family fun night event that was at Brigantino Park on July 1st, 2023. City Council of the City of Hollister requested that they receive an update on the 2023 fireworks show. And this report that I'm providing includes the event summary, financial impact, and a suggestion for a future event venue. City staff from multiple departments partnered to provide community members and visitors with a safe, pleasant experience that create memories that will last a lifetime. The event was held at Brigantino Park and the gates opened at 5:30. While the family fun night went from 6 to 9:30, the fireworks show began at 9:30. The evening was filled with live entertainment, laser tag, mobile food vendors, activities for the kids, and just good old fashioned fun by throwing a football or kicking a soccer ball. 350 cars were parked in the parking lot and the grass area at the park, and staff collaborated with the San Benito County Express on a transportation shuttle, and the County Express transported guests to the park from 5:30 until 11 p.m. The County Express provided 2 drivers to transport our visitors, and there were 5 locations throughout the city of Hollister. The busiest areas were West and 4th Street and Miller and 4th Street. County Express shuttled approximately 350 attendees from the 5 sites throughout the evening. CAL FIRE was on standby supporting our city's fire department. And then after the event, during the debriefing, the city's fire department reported 3 fires near the riverbed that were extinguished, and staff agree that the park is not a favorable logistics site for the future event. Traffic was backed up on the 4th Street near the park entrance. In an emergency, the park's one-way entry and one-way exit complicates matters for emergency vehicles. For future special events, our police department recommends directional signage and 2 message boards with slow traffic event ahead be placed along the route. To ensure the safety of our visitors and public safety, staff recommends moving the event to the city's airport so there's a less of an impact on the surrounding neighborhood. There's plenty of space on the tarmac for the event, ample parking, excellent fireworks viewing, and enough setback to shoot the shells, and accessibility for our emergency responders. City staff will pre-plan by anticipating any difficulties and concerns connected to the event activities surrounding the environment and being prepared to respond to any unanticipated problems during the event. The financial impact was estimated to be $46,000, and that covers staff time, public safety, entertainment activities, and the fireworks display. That completes my report. Are there any questions?
All right, do we have any questions? Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you. I understand it was an amazing event and it really shows the staff's commitment to serving our community. So I agree with taking it back to the airport. That seems to be the best alternative in my mind. And have you done any thought about maybe doing some sort of a drone versus fireworks presentation? I happened to notice that Watsonville, I believe at their airport, just did a drone show just maybe this last weekend to celebrate their 75th anniversary. And so I would hope that we could explore other alternatives if they're safer than the current option. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Resendez, questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Perez, questions?
No questions.
Vice Mayor, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Tina. I attended the event, so just want to say thank you to staff for all the work. I know that a lot of people were there. And I think your report is reflective of what I saw, which was very nice fireworks, but the logistics were a lot, and a lot of people were backed up, and the conditions getting to and from were very dangerous. So thank you for the recommendation.
All right, I don't have anything to add for as far as questions. Do we have public comment on this?
Mayor Casey, there are no public comments for this item.
Okay, so any further thoughts from council? No, Councilmember Resendez.
Yeah, congratulations. You and your staff put a lot of time, energy, and planning into it as far as the shuttles, trying something new. A lot of people don't do that. So I just want to go out and applaud you guys and thank you guys for attempting to do something different, going back and reassessing it, and then coming up with a different plan. Kudos, congratulations, huge success, just like always. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. Councilmember Perez, anything to add?
Yeah, I was just happened to attend that event. It was great. I loved, like Dolores said, your report was spot on. You know, all those things happened. I think that Hollister, I don't know, from talking to you, and I'm glad to see how you think about, you know, because we are getting to be a bigger city, that we need to start planning for bigger events. That to me tells me that you're thinking ahead for the future. So that means you're going to stay. Yeah, the event, it's like, it was so beautiful. It was like you said, footballs and frisbees in the air and music and people eating and laughing and dancing. It was great. It was good to celebrate America that way. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, anything to add? Well, thank you. Another good report. I appreciate all of the input. I think you're spot on as far as logistics and the issues, because I heard that a lot from the community, just access and the location, just not being ideal. So I like your idea of the airport. I think that's a good move. And so I could support that. So. City Manager.
So I think I'm hearing consensus to explore working to move this to the airport. That does require us to do some logistics and get permission and all of that. It shouldn't be a problem with this much time. And so we'll get working on that if I believe I have consensus. So,
yes, I think so.
yeah, and I'd like to just take a minute also, if I can indulge myself, to say thank you to Tina and the team out there. As Councilmember Resendez says, you know, they tried it. It's only one way that we could know if it would work or not. And the team is small and mighty, and they're out there, you know, during the holiday weekend and pulled off a fantastic event. And I know there's a tremendous positive feedback in the community. So thank you, Tina. And then just to extend a thank you to the COG as well, as they provided the shuttle service free of charge to make sure that to try to help rectify some challenges we saw maybe an issue. And I think it did help alleviate some of that. And so hopefully the COG will be as generous when we take it out to the airport, because for some folks as well, that may pose some transportation challenges as well. So we're going to continue to work on that partnership and get transportation out to the next event. So thank you.
All right.
Just before I conclude, I also wanted to thank the support of Chief Reynoso and his team. Our Hollister Police Department did an amazing job out there supporting us. And when traffic got backed up, his team was there and had to make some decisions. And then of course, our fire department with Chief Bob Martin Del Campo and his fire marshal, Charlie Bedolla, who was very supportive. And it looked like it just all came from Parks and Recreation Department, but it was definitely a team effort, you know, including our city manager, Marioni, who listened to what we were saying and gave his input too. So this is definitely a team effort. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on then to reports from city council members regarding committees on which they serve. Councilmember Burns, anything to report?
Nothing to report, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Resendez?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Councilmember Perez?
I passed to Dolores.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. We met with our library ad hoc. They wanted to make sure that the library ad hoc committee was still active and functional. And we said, as far as we know, we're still good, but we wanted to confirm and they wanted confirmation.
I will check on that. Is it a city-based one or is it with the county? Because I'll have to check on that one.
I think originally we had a city and then we might have had discussions about joining the county, but as far as Rick and I are concerned, right now it's just the two of us attending.
Okay.
We would like to reach out to the county And I understand that Supervisor B. Gonzalez and Supervisor Colin Kosmicki are part of the library ad hoc committee, so I'd like to meet with them.
Okay,
if
I'll
possible.
check on that and I'll touch base with the two of you so we can move forward with that.
Great. So at the library ad hoc committee, solely with the city only, we talked about the plans for the library expansion and the need to just have more regular meetings, the county's meeting every other month. And with, as many of us know, with project management, you need to meet more than that to just make sure that everything's moving in the right direction. So we are looking to hopefully meet with the county to help in any way that we can. They also inquired about the tax sharing agreement and potential impact fees that may be going to the county. We did refer them back to the county on those two issues, so they can consult with supervisors on that. They also talked about once the expansion is complete, they will need additional funding for everything inside the building. So I think that's why those conversations with the library and the county are going to be essential, since there's and if there's conversations, we'll bring that back to council on how that kind of falls out. But in the meantime, we did have an overview. We saw how the library expanded in terms of just the maker space, and they had really nice programs for the youth. They had Lego Day that day. There were about 10, 15 young children there with adults. They were having a great time. So it seems like the public library is expanding, and they are also building a kiosk in the other side to make books and learning more accessible to our community. That concludes my report.
So just a couple. One is LAFCO. I sit on the ad hoc for the LAFCO Executive Director recruitment, and we had a meeting and went over applications. So we are moving those forward so that the LAFCO committee will be able to review them. And with any luck, we should hopefully have a new LAFCO director soon. The second thing I wanted to talk about was I attended a community center meeting. I was invited to join in with a group that's planning to build a new community center here. It's really exciting for me, since this is something I really want to see for our community. I think it's going to bring people together and improve the quality of life here. So it's one of my it's a fun thing for me to participate in and be part of. The governing team that's been put together is excellent. It includes folks from education, from the Community Action Board, the Seniors Council, Tina Garzas from Parks and Recreation, as well as Supervisor Gonzalez and myself. I really love their energy and the approach which they have, which is not just let's get a building built. They're looking at ways to provide support for different groups like homeless youth, migrant families, as well as programs for just seniors and youth. It's really going to be a broad cross-section of the community. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come. We're just in the beginning stages, but it's pretty exciting. So I just wanted to share that. City Manager, did you have a report for us?
Nothing to report.
City Attorney, anything?
Yes, Mayor and Council, just for informational purposes, I'm going to be placing the city attorney evaluation on the next regular council meeting agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, anything?
Nothing to report.
Chief, did you have anything you wanted to report?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Paul, anything? Nothing? I'm just checking in with you guys. Okay. So let's go on then to the council, if you want to go through with informational reports. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a few things as usual. So I couldn't help but notice walking into City Hall tonight, and perhaps it's been missing for a while, but I don't recall any conversation about it being removed. But I noticed that the flag for Ukraine has been removed, and I know that it's pretty faded. Nobody could anticipate this disaster would be occurring this much longer, but I would like to rehang the flag and on our community pole and replace it with a new one if possible. Driving in, I came down San Benito Street and I came down 4th, and I couldn't help but notice that the bollards remind me of the Lad Lane fiasco. And I would like to see those replaced with a higher quality, lower height bollard that will allow not to distract from the entrance to the downtown. Overall, the downtown is starting to look a little worn, and so I think we need to really do a further assessment on how to improve the downtown area. And so I've challenged you as council members to recognize businesses and services that have been longstanding in our city. And so with that, I have a recommendation for 4 additional for certificates of appreciation. And so the first will be for Dr. Mohammed Al Hassan. He's actually my personal physician, and he's been treating residents of Hollister for at least 25 years that I know of. Excellent facility, excellent staff, caring, kind, deals with a lot of senior citizens, and I've never been anywhere where I've seen better service. And I sense that the doctor could make a lot more money in other locations, but yet he's chosen to pretty much grow up in Hollister. So also like to see us give the Country Rose Cafe a certificate of appreciation. I remember when they were at Chevron, and then they were over down off of 4th Street at the donut place. And so they've become a staple of our downtown now. And so I'd like to see us move there with a certificate of appreciation. Also like us to award Premier Cinema a certificate of appreciation. Again, I think all of these people have been here 20 plus years. It's amazing to me that they could survive the pandemic, and yet here they are. And so, and then the final one for this council meeting would be the Round Table Pizza. Again, been here 25 years or more, I'm sure. Both of my sons grew up working in there. One is a pizza maker, the other is a driver. And so very healthy, long-standing business, and they make Hollister part of who we are. So I would like to thank the city manager and I'm going to assume it's the Public Works crew for repainting the crosswalks at Sunny Slope Elementary School. Thank you. I think it's a little safer now, and I'm encouraged by the city manager talking about a regular maintenance plan for not only that particular school, but for other elementary schools or schools period as they fade during the summer months. Thank you to staff as well for getting right on and getting those bollards removed off of Lad Lane. I drove down it the other day. I almost think it could pass as it is. It was kind of fun with the wiggles, but it's amazing how much better the sight line improvement has been just with that removal. So thank you, staff. I appreciate that very much. I would like to get a status report, city manager, at your convenience about filling the airport director position, as well as moving forward to fill the vacant assistant city manager position. I would like to thank our planning commission for moving forward with the Panera and the Wendy's projects. Again, I think the more services we can provide to our residents, the higher the likelihood we'll stay in Hollister to use those services, and everybody benefits from that. So thank you, Planning Commission, in moving that forward. I would like to say, let's go Lady Baylor's flag football team. We again have the privilege of having a new sport in town. And so let's go Lady Baylor's. I want to bring up a subject that I think it's DOA from comments that were made the last time, but if it's got even a pulse left, I think it's time for the council to start talking about the motorcycle rally for 2024, if there's going to be one, rather than kick this can around for months towards the end of the finish line. Sooner is better, in my opinion. And so with that, Mayor, that will complete my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one quick thing. We are already giving a Country Rose a certificate. You had mentioned it before.
Did I? Well,
Yeah, I signed it
must
tonight,
be
so.
I probably ought to see my doctor then. So, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Resendez.
Thank you. There's talk and there's organizing amongst the community that wants to see a performance arts theater. So what I would request is that we make an official ad hoc committee. I would ask that I be placed on the ad hoc committee along with Mayor Mia Casey, and potentially go to the meetings for the community center and see if we could potentially work together. That's my one ask for tonight. Councilmember Burns, I have a brand new Ukrainian flag if we need one. I'm happy to lend it to the city. And of course, 100% do support having the discussion about the motorcycle rally coming back. Thank you.
Councilmember Perez.
Yes, on the rally, the downtown trees, having them getting them a checkup. I'd like to see those fixed. I'd like to see all our trees taken care of and replaced. I know it's coming. Downtown though, it is, to me, it's looking drabby. It's starting to go down, and you know what? I think we need to do something downtown, whether it's one person, a staff member down there cleaning all the time or something. And I don't know, leaves are all over the place after they clean it. I noticed a lot of traffic lines around the city are fading. And the other thing I wanted to thank staff and the community also, because, you know, those 2 dogs that were running around killing cats and stuff, it was my neighbor. And, you know, I know they're taking it hard. I mean, the cat's alive and stuff, but it's real expensive and stuff. But what a traumatic experience to go through. So I wanted to thank staff and the community for coming together to rectify that situation so we could get this animal under control. So thank you, staff, and thank you, Hollister. We don't know. We could have saved another cat, maybe a rabbit, maybe a kid from getting bit. But thank you all. Planning Commission. I went to the Planning Commission, and you know what? They run a meeting like none other. Oh my God, if we could only get to their level. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Planning Commissioner and all the planning commissioners. They're a great job they're doing out there. They're asking good questions, information. Really happy with them. It makes me smile inside when I see staff working together to come up with decisions for our cities. So that's it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I'm fine with the discussion on the motorcycle rally and the trees. I think for me, I'm not going to add anything. I just like to see the items that we've requested in the past in the chart, which is H1 to be updated. And for the projects that are kind of pending for a status report on, or just update on the chart is when we can expect those items back. Or if we've just completely moved away from it, because some are pretty old.
I go ahead.
I forgot. I also wanted to check on the status of the various ad hoc committees. I know we had like a business council ad hoc committee for downtown to talk about alternatives for the bike rally. I don't know where a lot of those committees are and if they're still meeting or if they're kind of done. So a status on all the ad hoc committees or committees that we're assigned to. And also date and times for some of them. On some, I've never received an email that they're meeting that I'm assigned to. Thank you.
Okay. I agree about covering the motorcycle rally and also the trees. We want to take care of that before they get too far gone and we lose some. So I agree on those 2 things. As far as the performing arts theater ad hoc, I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I don't feel comfortable trying to align it with this new group that I just barely joined. I think they may be 2 separate, or maybe start exploring as an ad hoc and then see if there's crossover. That would probably be a better, since these guys are just getting the group together. So I think that's all I have. I was going to mention the list, because we do have some things that are fairly old on that list and maybe need an update, or, but that's about it for me. Oh, I'm sorry, Lad Lane. I did want to call out the staff because I've gotten so many comments from residents who are very, very happy, and you guys did it so quickly. I saw someone comment that, oh, they're taking the sticks down. Is that permanent? And I ran out to see, and you guys already had Lad Lane done. I mean, I think you did it all in 3 hours. So I commend your staff and their hard work in getting that done. I appreciate it. And that's it.
Okay, so if I can recap, Ukrainian flag, we have one. We have a brand new one. When we took the other flag down, I just think it didn't go back up. We'll have it back up tomorrow. So appreciate the offer for the new flag. We have it, and so we'll get that up tomorrow. Taking a look at the bollards and delineators for downtown. for San Benito Street. I have a consensus there. Businesses, so I'll take Country Rose off the table. Because we got them, Dr. Muhammad Al Hassan, Round Table. And forgive me, I thought I heard you say 4, but I missed one.
Premier.
Premier Cinema. Thank you. So I have a consensus for that?
Yes.
Okay. Status report, airport director, so I can give it to you now. We've been working with the recruiting firm. We did final interviews, and so one of the candidates is going, basically they're going through a background and all of reference checks and whatnot. And so I should have an update on that fairly soon. That process just takes a while, but we did do final interviews about 7-8 days ago. Assistant city manager position, I'm working with the recruiting firm on that. So it's the same firm, so. For motorcycle rally, I already heard consensus. Believe it or not, Mary and I were talking about probably needing to bring that item forward. So we'll be working on that. And I'll work with the chief to bring an item forward very soon. Performing Arts Committee ad hoc. So I heard 2. Do I have do we have a consensus on that? I heard the mayor and Councilmember Resendez. And Council or Mayor Casey had mentioned just doing it separately.
At this point, and I hate to beg off of the committee, but I just joining this other committee, I couldn't really sit on this one as well. So maybe someone else might want to if we decide to.
And do I have consensus to bring the report with Council Member Resendez and Mayor Casey as the 2 members of the ad hoc?
No.
I'm okay with it, but the mayor's saying she doesn't want to. The only reason I suggested you is because I heard from the organizer that you were meeting with her as well. So I'm happy with.
She contacted me and we had a little back and forth.
Yeah, so I'm happy with, I would love to sit on there with anybody on the council. And it doesn't have to be the same community meeting.
Anyone else?
If they can meet on a Monday or a Tuesday, I'd be willing to.
So Mayor, do I have consensus?
I think there's 3. Tim, you're okay with it, I assume, if you're willing to sit.
Yeah, I am, as long as it's a Monday or Tuesday. I
Tuesday.
just, my Wednesday through Saturdays are just horrendous. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor, when we bring the staff report back, we'll have Councilmember Resendez. And then for the other member, am I hearing Councilmember Burns?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Downtown tree checkup, we'll work on that. I just want to take a time to note that the lights on East Street were put up last week, and that was the last row of the downtown lights. A handful of the outlets just need some wiring work, and so William and his team are working on that, but those did get installed at last week. So just to put some closure on that. We'll take a look at, Councilmember Perez, you mentioned the downtown needing a freshening up. Yeah, I mean, what we can do is, I can ask William to take a look and maybe make some recommendations. I think that given the items on the list, which was something that was brought up, I'd like to couple that all together. I'm sensing some frustration with the items on the list, either being stagnant or not being updated as much. I do want to reassure you that staff is working tirelessly to get these items done. And so we will bring, if I have permission, I'd like to bring the items on the list forward with a status on each and maybe a brief discussion on each one. I think we've made, if you go back and look, we've made tremendous progress on some of those, but some of those single line items could be a 6-month project. And so I want to just bring that all together. And maybe if it's something we can say we're comfortable putting on the back burner, maybe we can have that discussion. I think staff would appreciate that as well.
Sure, done, David. You got
I'm
one.
just double checking.
Okay.
Status of the ad hoc, we can provide just an update to all council in a memo just on where they're at, all of those. And I believe that's all the items that I needed consensus on.
Okay. All right. So do we have any other, let's see. Nope, I think that's it. So do we have a motion to adjourn? Is
So
there a
moved.
second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Meeting's now adjourned.
Yeah, working.